Hi, welcome to this episode of Boardman Outlook. I'm Larry Moliterno with Brad Calhoun and Tom Costello, our Township Trustees. And I guess the first thing we can talk about, this is our first show of the year. And as we do every year, we appoint someone to be the chairperson, someone to be the vice chair. And for this next year, I will be the chairman of the board, and Tom will be the vice chair. It's one of the nice things we do. There's really no extra authority that comes with being the chair, other than kind of running someone has to run the meetings and sometimes be a spokesman for the board. So it's really nice that we have a system. I know you were chairman last year, that we kind of rotate that, and I think it's a nice thing that we do.
Well, it's good to speak with one voice. And you know, I know in a lot of boards out there, I mean, sometimes they get 3 different messages, and that confusion probably makes their community wonder what's going on. So I think it's best that we have the chairman that kind of speaks for us.
It's worked out well. We've done this since the 3 of us have been together. And actually one voice can speak for us because we say what we need said at a meeting, we clarify our positions, and then the chair speaks.
Right. So we're looking forward to, we really have I think an exciting year ahead of us. We accomplished all last year, but I also think we have a lot of things in the pipeline that we'll be working on this year. One of the things that we did accomplish last year in 2015 was the development of our township land bank.
Yes, and it's been a great addition for the community. We are able to, and I think we've taken back probably 15 or 20 properties so far, and we can get those properties back up to where they're not an embarrassment in the community or someone doesn't want to live next to them. Some will sell to the neighbors, some will hold for future use.
Well, there's some areas that we've targeted in Boardman that if we can, we believe the neighborhood is, I think we've used the word maturing in some places. We've picked up a few properties knowing that there might be a couple more on a corner that if in time, might take 2 or 3 years, we acquire the an entire corner, we can then try to do something with that, either business-wise or commercially market that in some way.
Well, and I represent the board here on the Mahoning County Land Bank Board, and now also we have our township land bank, and the two can work very well together. And what I like about it is that we're being very proactive. We're not waiting until we have so many of these properties that it's just hard to manage. We're being proactive, we're being very aggressive, and what I like about it also is that we're preparing properties for future redevelopment. And that's the plan of the land bank.
Well, and one of the things too is we've been able to acquire dollars out there to help tear down some of these homes. And so, you know, we're acquiring just at the end, we just have a plot of land. I think, Tom, you alluded to the fact that sometimes neighborhoods will buy the plot of land and take care of it. And I know there's one place in Boardman where someone's put a little community garden. They personally bought it.
Yes.
But those are the kind of things that we think that we envision that someone might do that, or it could also be used for water projects if we ever would find a neighborhood that we need to, get rid of the concrete and maybe put in something that would help alleviate any water problems in their neighborhood.
Yeah, we did that several years ago at a former gas station on the corner of Indianola Road and Southern Boulevard. And that water project it took several years to accomplish, but once it was done, has alleviated a lot of water problems in that area.
And the land bank is really an extension of what we started doing with the demo program. And not only homes, but there was a real eyesore of a property right near the mall that we were able to tear down. Yeah. And again, that makes it more attractive for somebody else who wants to come in. We've seen a lot of activity along 224 this year, and a lot of interest in people buying properties and businesses getting started again.
It's funny now that business is gone. I drive by, I don't even notice that it's got a vacant hole there. I have to almost look for it. It's so much nicer, but you forget what was there.
Right.
Well, another thing that we did this past year was that we got really involved in being more transparent with our finances. We were one of the first townships to aggressively do this, and I don't know if you guys want to talk a little bit about it. I think it's called, the website is skinnyohio.org.
Yes, well, the open checkbook.
And it's not referring to anything else that we should be taking advantage of.
Well, not with the 3 of us. The open checkbook, we were the first township actually in Mahoning County to sign on, trying to make transparency and open the books up to everybody. It's a good thing for government.
Well, I'm proud of the fact that the fiscal office has participated, but one thing I guess it's noted, and I've told Bill Light and his staff, I said, we've put online, at least in the 6 years that I've been here, we put it on paper, all of our check registry. So it's been there in the old format where we just put a document on the website, but now it's something you can search. So if you wanted to search, you know, salt purchases, you can see how much we spend on salt. But we've been doing this, but now they've taken it to another level.
Yeah, and if you look at some of those, you can really see how the cost of certain things like salt and road paving have really increased over the last handful of years.
Well, salt, I mean, was it 2 years ago we were buying it at around $27 a ton.
Yeah.
And then I remember Larry Wilson asking us to take a leap of faith and buy some more salt. I believe it was about $40, $50 a ton. And we were like, wow, that's double the price. And we made the right decision. We filled our barn up and then added extra salt. And the price went to over, what, $125 a ton?
It was crazy.
It just went crazy, and that was last year when we went through so much salt.
Right.
So that leap of faith actually saved thousands of dollars for the community.
Well, we had communities begging us to sell them salt,
Yeah.
which unfortunately we kept all the salt for ourselves. We couldn't help them. But now with this good weather, I know that we've had a couple call outs just for kind of icy conditions, but we've probably saved tens of thousands of dollars of labor and overtime and keeping our salt so far this year in the mild winter.
Absolutely. Well, and speaking of salt, our salt barn, which is over by the township, was part of the original structures, I think, when we built that township building some years ago.
It was actually the first structure that was built, so it's over 30 years old. And just by the nature of what it is, it holds salt year-round. The wooden structure has decayed to the point where we were concerned from a safety issue.
Well, and that's, you know, one of the things that we're looking at overall in the township is our capital needs. And of course that, because of safety, that one took a priority to get bumped up on the list. But we have so many capital needs because our equipment is aging, and we've kind of weathered the storm with the economic situation over the last 5-6 years. But now we're at the point where we've got to start looking at how we can try to replace a lot of our capital needs.
It certainly is a balance, because I know that when I came into office 8 years ago, we had a budget that was close to $20 million. We have lost, I don't know, $3 to $4 million, I think, in local government dollars. And so now we're forced to operate on, you know, much leaner ship, which we're doing. But I think one of the things that we had to do is prioritize our expenses, and unfortunately one of those things that got prioritized is to try to get a little bit more use out of a lot of our equipment and vehicles and things like that, and at some point we have to replace them.
Well, you talk about equipment. Talking to Mr. Wilson a couple weeks ago, we have a Vector truck that is used to clean all these lines out, the storm sewer lines, and keep them flowing so we don't have flooding issues. That truck's about 15 years old, and he said a new truck right now would be over $300,000. And just by the nature of what that truck does, I mean, you know, 20 years is, if you get it to 20, you've done extremely well.
Well, and there was a point, you know, Boardman, as it was growing and financially it was much stronger, you know, before we were in office, I think even before you were probably in office the first time, all the vehicles were purchased with cash.
Correct.
And we're probably not looking at being able to have that luxury anymore.
No, but there's certainly a lot of opportunities out there for us to finance at low interest. But again, we have set the priorities. We have our capital needs. You know, we have, unfortunately, our equipment, everything is just so expensive. I mean, our firehouse is deteriorating. Salt barn we're taking care of. We need a cold storage facility to put all the things that we don't use during the summer, basically, and we can store up. But the police cars we took care of, but then you have fire, and those come at probably the cheapest fire truck that we'll ever purchase, probably around $300,000.
We had to purchase the ladder truck recently.
Right.
And that we did have to finance. And the cost of that, because it was a ladder truck, was over $900,000.
Well, what I like also is I think that we've developed a relationship with other communities, and we're always talking about how we can collaborate with them if there's ways for us to save money on this and that. And I think that we've had some success doing that. And I know we'll continue to do that.
Oh, I foresee us looking at with other communities, buying equipment, and then working on a shared agreement type thing, because it doesn't make sense for both communities to buy a piece of equipment that can be shared.
Right. So so we're looking at that, and I think that those capital needs are something we're going to have to strategize out over the next year or so, figure out ways to go out and get everything updated. Yes. I know in terms of staffing, you mentioned going after grants and those kind of things, and one of the things we were able to do with staffing is to get a really good deal on being able to hire a few extra police officers that we're going to partner up with the school system with.
Yes. There was a grant available to add officers for school resource officers. And we were successful in getting that grant for 2 officers for, I think it's 4 years. And the grant pays 75% of the cost. And then by partnering with the schools, we're splitting the other 25% of the cost.
Well, the goal is to put an officer in the kind of a pilot thing to see how it works over the next few years into the middle schools. We have a resource officer that kind of oversees the district, in, Sergeant Hillman, and then we have a resource officer that we have the same kind of a deal. We pay the school pays approximately 75% of his salary, and then we get them back on the holidays and summer vacation when they don't have a need. So we pay 25%, but so we have one that kind of hangs out at the high school. So now we're going to put one at the middle school, and what they just don't. A lot of people, well, what do? Well, they don't just walk around the building. I mean, they take care of. They're kind of like the detective in charge of juvenile crimes. They will investigate and carry out on that, and then they'll do a lot of paperwork, because they get a little office and they do a lot of paperwork for the chief as far as trying to finishing up cases. They do background checks when we hire new officers, so they keep quite busy. But overall, I think it'll be a good thing as a teacher in the system, just having a presence. I mean, we've done a great job, I think, as a township. Chief Nichols has an officer walk the building every single day from the street. They come off the street and they walk around. And the nice thing is the kids, they don't even think twice when they see this officer walking around the building. And they probably feel a little safer in the back of their mind. And they just they don't feel like something's wrong when they see an officer in the building.
Well, I think the nice thing about it, like as you mentioned, I think it provides security. It also helps our officers have a better sense of the layout of the buildings in case they ever need to do that. And I also think that it gives I think the kids are able to develop a positive relationship with our police department because they see them every day.
Well, and it's established a great relationship between the township and the schools. We work so well together on a lot of different projects.
Well, I think the grant, Tim Saxon did a lot of the legwork on the grant. And so, we administer it, but he helped out a lot with getting the language there for us. And obviously it was enough to pass through the grant checkers.
And so that's something exciting. We'll be hiring those 2 officers here very soon, I'm sure. Yeah. And looking forward to that. In terms of the fire department, just recently brought on 4 additional firefighters. Again, I shouldn't say additional firefighters, replacing some firefighters. We do have a lot of folks who come into our fire department, and because we do have such a strong fire department and it provides such a good opportunity for people, sometimes some of our fire officers, they're able to move on to other opportunities.
Well, we've had a lot of young people come here to become firefighters, but they get in and they start their career and they've come from somewhere else in Ohio. And if they get the opportunity to go back home, they have. And so, but we're spreading out the people that know Boardman and feel good about Boardman, which keeps a constant people wanting to come here. And so we've just made conditional offers to 4 additional, but they're not additional replacement firefighters.
Well, I think there was 2 of them who recently came to us from the Akron area, because they had known some other folks who had worked in our fire department and spoke so highly of us that they wanted to come here.
Well, if you look at when we do the interviews, I notice quite frequently on their references that are people that are currently a fireman or were once a fireman for our system.
Yes.
And so even though they left, they're willing to recommend someone to come here. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's kind of a tribute to the fact that we have a very knowledgeable group of men and women that serve in our fire department, and they do a great job as to support our community.
Well, in last year, our community went from it's called a protection class 5 to a protection class 4. What that did is everybody hopefully recognized a small reduction in their homeowners insurance rates, and that's because of the effort of these folks.
Well, I know I did in my insurance. I know, you know, at a time where things were going up, I was able to get a renewal that basically lowered it down a little bit, you know, so that's a good thing.
Those are those little things that you try to do for everybody.
Well,
Right.
You've mentioned it several times. I mean, we do ask for tax dollars, but we look for ways to save and stretch them out. You know, the aggregate program that was put in about 7 years ago, you know, I know that my gas bill just continually goes down because we have that ability to move around. And Boardman, we had a plan we signed for a couple of years, and you can get a cheaper plan right now, temporarily, but I guarantee you that once we get back to our renewal, we'll have a plan that's going to save people some money again.
Right.
And if you're watching that out there on the, I think apples to apples, you go out there, you can find good deals, and I think that aggregate program has saved everyone money over the last 7 years.
Well, I think speaking of the fire department, we were able to also promote James Yoakum to lieutenant in the fire prevention program. And the fire prevention program is one of those areas of the township that I think people don't really know all that much about, but it really is a critical part of what we do on the prevention side.
Well, that's the folks that go out and inspect properties to make sure there are not fire hazards there, to make sure they're safe. They've worked real hard the past year on restaurants and apartments, making sure that those types of facilities, but I know my own business got a letter that we had to complete a form and send some pictures in showing that we had done certain things, you know, updated fire extinguishers and that. It's keeping the community safe, and there's two fire prevention officers in there, James being one of them. They've done a wonderful job.
Well, when you think about how many, you know, thousands of businesses that they need to check, it's 2 people, in addition to performing community CPR classes. They go to the schools, they talk about fire prevention there, and then of course any new construction or remodeling requires the fire department to come in. And you know, with the hospitals, what they have been doing over the last couple of years, I mean, at St. E's, they probably spent every single day stopping by, looking at what they were installing, make sure it was done right. And then of course, Akron now is doing an expansion, so that'll be taking up a lot of time.
And I know in our office, we moved our administrative office to Boardman, and we called and asked for some advice on some things about where to put, you know, exit lights and those kind of things, and they're wonderful about coming up and just giving us that kind of advice. So
sure.
It's a very important part of what we do. Last issue I want to mention is that a lot of what's happened is we really tried to reach out and respond to what people's needs are in the community, and recently a lot of folks came to us concerned about basically certain pets, especially dogs, who were being abused. And one of the things that we looked into was some tethering laws that were currently being discussed at the state level. And we wanted to respond to those residents who had those concerns.
Well, and one of the reasons why we tried to respond as quickly as we did is that this is the winter months right now. We can say, well, let's see what the state does, and that might be something now, something later, something never. And that wasn't good enough for the 3 of us, nor was it good enough for the several hundred people that asked us to make a change. So we looked into it, and I think the key is that we're not looking to really monitor most homeowners that have dogs. We're looking for that 1 or 2 in a neighborhood or even in the township that are abusing their dogs.
Right.
This isn't about you saw the dog out for 45 minutes right. and you think it's cold. It's not about calling the police every time you think the dog was out longer than it needs to be. So we put some restrictions in, because I know, Larry, you talked about a dog you once had that didn't like being in the house because it was a husky and it loved being and rolling around in that snow. So this is it's one of those things that we don't want to see people abusing by making a phone call every time they see a dog outside. I have 3 dogs, and they just love it. And one of them is just a little tiny Yorkie. just loves running around in that snow. Obviously, I wouldn't let them stay out there for, you know, hours on end. And for those people, they're the ones that we want to look at.
So I think it's exciting that we're, again, responding, and I think we've done a good job of balancing, you know, wanting to protect those pets, but not abusing the authority of government to go in and do those kind of things.
Right.
So I think we feel good about it, and I think we had over 300 signatures and
Yes.
phone calls and emails and people who came out, and so it certainly it was an issue that was important to a lot of people, and I'm glad we were able to respond quickly.
Well, we patterned what we did to House Bill 94, which is still working its way through Columbus, but and when that is passed, that would, you know, supersede whatever we do. But we felt it important to have protection in place now as it works its way through the state. We're able to respond quicker than the state can.
And we urge people that if you have any concerns about any issue that's important to you, please give us a call to Township, and we'd love to engage in that conversation. So we're looking forward. I think we're going to have a lot of exciting things to report in 2016. It's going to be a busy year, and we'll be looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think this year is going to be one of those that we kind of advanced some things that we've been putting on the back burner, and I think we're going to fix a few things in the township for this year.
We've been working to put pieces together. We're real close, and hopefully by the next meeting or our next show, we can even maybe make an announcement on something we're working towards.
It'd be great. So with that, for Tom Costello and Brad Calhoun, I'm Larry Moliterno, and we'll see you next month.